Brothers and sisters in Islam, peace be upon you, this is Salim bin Mohammed Rafi. I am bringing to you the highlights of the Holy Quran along with historic background under which various ayats were revealed and added in different surahs by our Holy Prophet, peace be upon him. The reason this is given separately is to make this information available to the serious student who wishes to understand depth of the words of Allah Subhanahu revealed for the benefit of whole mankind through our Holy Prophet Muhammad Mustafa, peace be upon him. Sit back, relax and listen now. Third Para. The third Para or juz of the Quran is Tilka ar-Rusulu, which has two surahs. The first one is Surah Al-Baqarah 2, ayat 253 to 286, and second is Al-Imran 3, ayat 1 to 91, total no of ayat in this para, 125. Highlights of Para 3, Part 3 of Holy Quran. The main topics of Surah Al-Imran are Tawhid, prophethood and the truth of the Quran. As Surah Al-Baqarah discussed the issues related to Bani Israel, Al-Imran discusses some issues related to the Christian community and their religious positions. It also discusses the subjects of Hajj, Jihad, Zakat, and Riba. It will end, like Surah Al-Baqarah, with a profound dua. Emphasis on charity. To Allah belongs everything. His throne extends to heaven and earth. No compulsion in religion. Allah brings out people from darkness unto light. Allah's power over life and death. Some examples: Prophet Ibrahim's dialogue with Nimrud, a man in the valley of dead. Prophet Ibrahim asks Allah how will he raise the dead to life. Allah's answer to Prophet Ibrahim. Allah blesses charity. Some examples of how Allah blesses charity. Emphasis on charity: spend good things, give openly and secretly to the poor and needy. Conclusion of Al-Baqarah. Everything in the heaven and earth belong to Allah, the prayer of the believers. Allah is the ever-living, self-subsisting. He sent the Quran as he sent before the Torah and Injil for the guidance of people. True believers are those who accept everything of the Book of Allah and try to understand it. Believers pray always for Allah's guidance for them. Allah bears witness for his own Tawhid as well as the angels and the people of knowledge. The religion acceptable in the sight of Allah is Islam. To love Allah one must follow the Prophet. Obedience to Allah and his messenger are necessary for faith. Allah chose Adam, Noah, family of Ibrahim and the family of Imran to guide humanity through them. Many prophets and messengers of Allah came for this purpose. Birth of Jesus and his true message. Jesus preached the message of Tawhid. His true followers are those who recognize Tawhid. Jesus' birth was miraculous, just as Adam's was miraculous. Some Christians argued with the Prophet. He asked them to come for an open mubahala, invoking the curse of Allah upon the liar. Invitation to the people of the book to come to a common word of Tawhid and obedience to Allah. Some people of the book try to discredit Islam. Muslims are warned to be conscious of this challenge. Previous prophets and their scriptures confirm the truth of Islam. This para is divided into two surahs. Remaining part of Surah Baqarah and start of Surah Al-Imran. There are three things mentioned in the remaining part of Surah Baqarah. Two major verses, tales of two prophets and charity and usury. Two major verses. One major verse is Ayatul Kursi, which is the greatest in virtue. Allah's name is mentioned 70 times in this verse. Second verse is Ayat Madina, who is the greatest in the quantity in which trade and debt is mentioned. Story of two prophets. One of the tales is of Hazrat Ibrahim, peace be upon him, debating with Namrud and making a dua for revival of death. Other tale is of Aziz, peace be upon him, who was given life back after 100 years of death. Charity and usury. Evidently, giving charity seems like your money will get lesser because you're giving money to someone else and the loan with interest, usury, will make it greater because you're taking an interest over the actual money, but in reality it's the opposite. Allah desecrated usury and causes charitable deeds to prosper. There are four things mentioned in the initial part of Surah Al-Imran. Relevance of Surah Baqarah, four tales of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala divinity, debate with Christians, negotiation and compromise and the promise of past prophets. Relevance of Surah Baqarah. Both surahs have some relevance, like explaining the truth of Quran and address to non-believers. In Surah Baqarah the address is mostly with Jews, while in Surah Al-Imran the address is mostly with Ansari. 4. Story of Allah's divinity. First tale is of Jang-e-Badr, where total of 313 Muslims defeated an army of 1,000 non-Muslims. Second tale is of finding novel and uncommon fruits at Hazrat Maryam's place. Third is Hazrat Zakaria, peace be upon him, to be blessed with a child at an old age. And fourth is Hazrat Isa, peace be upon him, to be born without a father, start speaking at an early age and then to be raised alive to heaven. Debate, negotiation and compromise. Debate with non-heathens, in which we said to, bring your family and we will bring ours to pray, from God, and whoever is lying will face the wrath of God. They didn't agree upon it, so we made a compromise for both parties to agree on, which God accepted. Promise of the past prophets. It was made a covenant with the prophets, when come the last prophet, you will obey his sayings and will believe in him, and if he comes after you, your people have to believe in him. Historic background. Surah Al-Imran. Ayah's revelation, place 200, Medina. Name. This surah takes its name from v.33. Al-Imran, like the names of many other surahs, is merely a name to distinguish it from other surahs and does not imply that the family of Imran has been discussed in it. The period of revelation. This surah consists of 4 discourses. The first discourse, verses 1 to 32, was probably revealed soon after the Battle of Badr. The second discourse, verses 33 to 63, was revealed in 9 on the occasion of the visit of the deputation from the Christians of Najran. The third discourse, verses 64 to 120, appears to have been revealed immediately after the first one. The fourth discourse, verses 121 to 200, was revealed after the Battle of Uhud. Subject. Though these discourses were revealed at different periods and on different occasions, they are so interlinked and so interconnected with regard to their aim, object and central theme that they make together one continuous whole. This surah has been especially addressed to 2 groups: the people of the book, the Jews and the Christians, and the followers of Muhammad, may Allah bless him and grant him peace. The message has been extended to the Jews and the Christians in continuation of the invitation in Al-Baqarah, in which they have been admonished for their erroneous beliefs and evil morals and advised to accept, as a remedy, the truth of the Quran. They have been told here that Muhammad, Allah's peace be upon him, taught the same right way of life that had been preached by their own prophets, that it alone was the right way, the way of Allah, hence any deviation from it will be wrong even according to their own scriptures. The second group, the Muslims, who had been declared to be the best community in Al-Baqarah and appointed torchbearers of the truth and entrusted with the responsibility of reforming the world, have been given additional instructions in continuation of those given in the preceding surah. The Muslims have been warned to learn a lesson from the religious and moral degeneration of the former communities and to refrain from treading in their footsteps. Instructions have also been given about the reformative work they had to perform. Besides this, they have been taught how to deal with the people of the book and the hypocrites who were putting different kinds of hindrances in the way of Allah. Above all, they have been warned to guard against those weaknesses which had come to the surface in the Battle Uhud. Background. The following is the background of the surah. The believers had met with all sorts of trials and hardships about which they had been forewarned in Al-Baqarah. Though they had come out victorious in the Battle of Badr, they were not out of danger yet. Their victory had aroused the enmity of all those powers in Arabia which were opposed to the Islamic movement. Signs of threatening storms had begun to appear on all sides and the Muslims were in a perpetual state of fear and anxiety. It looked as if the whole Arabian world around the tiny state of Al-Madinah, which was no more than a village state at that time, was bent upon blotting out its very existence. This state of war was also adversely affecting its economy, which had already been badly disturbed by the influx of the Muslim refugees from Mecca. Then there was the disturbing problem of the Jewish clans who lived in the suburbs of Al-Madinah. They were discarding the treaties of alliance they had made with after his migration from Mecca. So much so that on the occasion of the Battle of Badr, these people of the book sympathized with the evil aims of the idolaters, in spite of the fact that their fundamental articles of the faith, oneness of Allah, prophethood, life after death, were the same as those of the Muslims. After the Battle of Badr, they openly began to incite the Quraysh and other Arab clans to wreak their vengeance on the Muslims. Thus those Jewish clans set aside their centuries-old friendly and neighborly relations with the people of Al-Madinah. At last, when their mischievous actions and breaches of treaties became unbearable, attacked the Bani Qaynuqa, the most mischievous of all the other Jewish clans who had conspired with the hypocrites of Al-Madinah and the idolatrous Arab clans to encircle the believers on all sides. The magnitude of the peril might be judged from the fact that even the life of himself was always in danger. Therefore his companions slept in their armors during that period and kept watch at night to guard against any sudden attack, and whenever happened to be out of sight even for a short while, they would at once set out in search of him. This incitement by the Jews added fuel to the fire which was burning in the hearts of the Quraysh, and they began to make preparations to avenge the defeat they had suffered at Badr. A year after this, an army of 3,000 strong marched out of Mecca to invade Al-Madinah, and a battle took place at the foot of Mount Ud. Came out of Al-Madinah with 1,000 men to meet the enemy. While they were marching to the battlefield, 300 hypocrites deserted the army and returned to Al-Madinah, but there still remained a small band of hypocrites among the 700 who accompanied. They played their part and did their worst to create mischief and chaos in the ranks of the believers during the battle. This was the first clear indication of the fact that within the fold of the Muslim community there was quite a large number of saboteurs, who were always ready to conspire with the external enemies to harm their own brethren. Though the devices of the hypocrites had played a great part in the setback at Ud, the weaknesses of the Muslims themselves contributed no less to it. And it was but natural that the Muslims should show signs of moral weakness, for they were a new community which had only recently been formed on a new ideology and had not as yet got a thorough moral training. Naturally, in this second hard test of their physical and moral strength, some weaknesses came to the surface. That is why a detailed review of the Battle of Ud was needed to warn the Muslims of their shortcomings and to issue instructions for their reform. It should also be noted that this review of the battle is quite different from the reviews that are usually made by generals on similar occasions. Subject: Guidance. This surah is the sequel to Al-Baqarah, and the invitation therein is continued to the people of the book. In Al-Baqarah the Jews were pointedly invited to accept the guidance, and in this surah the Christians have particularly been admonished to give up their erroneous beliefs and accept the guidance of the Quran. At the same time, the Muslims have been instructed to nourish the virtues that may enable them to carry out their obligations and spread the divine guidance. Topics and their interconnection. In these introductory verses, the fundamental truths about Allah, revelation, and life after death have been reiterated to serve as fitting preliminaries, leading to the main topics discussed in the surah. 1-32. This discourse is particularly addressed to the Christians and invites them to accept Islam. It clears Jesus and his mother not only from the stigma maliciously set upon them by the Jews, but also refutes the erroneous Christian creed of the divinity of Jesus which had been formulated because of his miraculous birth. For this purpose the instances of John the Baptist to a barren woman and an extremely aged man, and that of Adam without father or mother, have been cited to show that there is nothing in the birth of Jesus without a father to entitle him to divinity. 33. 65. In these verses the people of the book, the Jews, have been invited to give up their sinister ways and accept the divine guidance. At the same time the Muslims have been warned to be on their guard against their malicious intentions, erroneous ways, and absurd objections. 66-101. The Muslims have been instructed to learn lessons from the history of the people of the book and also to guard themselves against their machinations, and to prepare and train themselves to establish virtue and eradicate evil. 102-120. In this portion, a review of the Battle of Ud has been made to teach and reassure the Muslims that the machinations of their enemies could do them no harm, if they would practice restraint and fortitude and have fear of Allah. It has been pointed out that the setback they had suffered was due to the lack of some moral qualities and the existence of some evils. As the main cause of the defeat was the greed of the archers guarding the pass, the taking of interest has been prohibited to eradicate part of this evil, greed. 121 to 175. The main theme of the verses 109 to 120 has been resumed to reassure and encourage the Muslims against the dangerous plots of their enemies. 175, 189. This is the conclusion of the surah and is not directly connected with the verses immediately preceding it but with the theme of the surah as a whole. 190 to 200.